the stand. Now he runs. He produces a magic trick. He pulls out another one. This is incredible. This is ridiculous. This is 15 out of 10 on the incredible meter. What a player. What an entertainer. Give him the medal. Give him the Delier medal.
Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast. It's a Wednesday. It's a late Wednesday recording. We've gotten around to this quite late into the evening, which means we are going to try and speed through this one. But it's a Wednesday, so that means we're here for the Supercoach wrap-up and review, and of course our preview heading into round 13, the first major bye round. They are here. Hope you guys are prepared well. We certainly have, which we will get into. But before we get into all that, of course, this one, it's up on YouTube. So if you're listening on an audio platform, head over to the YouTube channel. You can see the face cam. You can see everything that I've got up on screen. It is the best place to do so. So yeah, come along and have a look on the YouTube. That is all I have to say, really. But let's get into it, shall we? You guys can see, if you are listening, if you are watching on YouTube, you can see the score that we accomplished for round 12. A score of 1,213. So I was pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with above 1,200 score. We did end up dropping 307 places, so very small red arrows down to a season rank of 6,037th overall. So still really well, still in the top 4% of all teams at the moment. And the best part about it all is we only used the one trade last week. We did try and get away with not using any, but if you guys follow me on the Instagram, you will know that a bit of chaos occurred late into the round. I'm sure chaos was everywhere last round, and we ended up losing Charles Nickel-Klukstad to that virus, knowing he was out of round 13. So this week we ended up electing to trade him, which is good that we had those trades in hand. So a bit of a shame that we had to trade him because I love him. He's been a savior of my season, and a shame because I would have loved to have kept him, but we might look to bring him back. We'll have to see. But we did end up trading him, which we'll get to. So yeah, one trade last week isn't bad, and to be in this position now with a good little rank, I suppose, heading into the bye rounds, I'm really excited for. So yeah, top 4% of all scores. Let's get into how the team actually tracked. So here we are. Let's read through. In the hooker position, Harry Grant, 57. Happy with that. Again, it's just hooker's a shit show of position. 50s or above. I'm just happy to sort of sit there. I know it's Harry and you want a bit more from him, but it was a game where Manly got the upper hand. It was a really sloppy game from the Storm, so I'll just take a 57. Again, I'm looking at scores at face value before I sort of deep dive, and 57's fine. Jaden Brayley, our secondary hooker, we didn't play because the Knights were on the bye. Jack DeBellin, 66 points. Love that at front row. He has been a hero for me at the front row position, in a position that's really tough at the moment. Love having him there. 40 points from Terrell May. Not the best, but hey, it's not too bad, especially with everything else that was going on in the round. We'll take a 40 points. And 61 from Josh Curran, who we did end up slapping a reserve on. Really happy for that. He was insane in his stint out there. He was an absolute workhorse, so really happy to have that 61 points. He's starting to pull his weight a little bit more. He's had a few down weeks. I'm happy with this 60 around that point scoring from him. 31 from Sam Hughes, who we didn't play. Into the second row, we had the 82 from Angus Crichton, who just keeps doing it. He keeps scoring tries. He keeps just being a menace. Absolute weapon. So 82, we love to see that. Beau Moore with 81, despite playing in the centres and against the Broncos. He was amazing, and yeah, we ended up putting a bit of a bet on him for an anytime try score. He hadn't scored this season. Thought we'd slap one on there, and he got away with that. So he scored us some good money as well as the points. Kai Pearce-Paul didn't play. We've obviously slapped the captain armband on him because we ended up looping a certain someone that you guys can see. But for anyone listening, we will get to who we looped. But yeah, Kai Pearce-Paul, the hero for having that captain band on him. We didn't play Britton Nikora. We had to sacrifice someone to get that captain loop going. Nikora was the man to make way, so we missed out on his 52, but that's fine. 29 from Smithies is really not great and a bit alarming. We've still got him for the bye round. If he scores low again this week, I will look to move him on. I'd like to keep him for this entire period, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But 29, we didn't play either. And Viliami Fafita, obviously, our Nuff didn't play. Nico Hines, the big one, 3 points there. Luckily, didn't captain him, so a lot of other people did, which is very, very tough for you guys. It could almost be season defining. 3 points is absolutely killer, and now he's away in Origin camp. So there's a few people selling, which we will discuss in this podcast. Sort of way up if that's really a go, but we'll get to that. At the moment, you just copped the 3 on the chin. Everyone copped it, so it could be a lot worse. If you captained, then it's tough luck to you. Luke Brooks, 41 points. A game, again, that he looked really good in from a NRL standpoint. From watching the games, he's been insane. I love watching him play. And then he scores 41 Supercoach points. So, like, what can you do, really? I didn't play him, so it didn't really make too much of a difference for me. Dylan Brown, 66 points at 5/8. Happy to have that, especially in the game that they got rolled. Lockie Galvin, 90 points as another one of our reserves. So this was good. Getting that 90 from Galvin, I was very, very happy with that. So he's someone who everyone sort of looked to sell, or, you've had other problems and you look to sell him later and later and you keep pushing it back. Now you can hold on to him. I think through this bye period, the Tigers have a great, great period. They missed this week, round 13, then they play every game through to round 21 or something. Might even be more than that. So, yeah, it would be more than that. They had their bye round 1, then they have this bye, then they won't have one till like round 26 or something. So, yeah, love owning Galvin. Into the centre wings, 36 points from Dominic Young. Quite disappointing. Not really what we want to see, especially, again, in a game that the Roosters score tries, and he wasn't the beneficiary of them. Joseph Manu scored like 100, and, the outside man did not. Ruben Garrick, 69. He keeps doing it against Melbourne. You love to see that sort of score. Valentine Holmes, 136. That's where our loop came in handy. We captained him last week, and he was the bane of my existence, scoring 49, doubled to 98. And then this week, we looped that 136 for a score of 272. No, 282? No, 272. I'm glad I can count. That's really good. So, yeah, really happy with that sort of score. That is why Kai Pearce-Paul got the captain band as that loop. 47 from Jesse Ramian in a game the Sharks were absolutely trounced. You guys know how much I love Ramian, so I'm happy to see that just all in base. Greg Marju didn't play. Kale Ero, 33 points, so a bit of a shame there. We should have probably dropped him over Britton Nikita, but that's all hindsight. The upside of Ero is a bit better, so was happy to play him. And I thought the Sharks would be, having a lot better of a game than they did. So you just copped that one on the chin. David Armstrong didn't play. Then the fullbacks, 113 from our man Reece Walsh. Loved seeing that. He was sort of in a bit of doubt the entire time. Then he was confirmed to be in, which I needed because I was struggling number-wise. We had the captain armband on him originally, but after Valentine Holmes did what he did, it made sense to loop. It might have worked out a little bit better had we kept Walsh because, we got a AE of 29. I don't know, probably would have equaled out to be around about the same, but you got to take those VC loops when they come. It's just a safer option. But 113 from Walsh we're happy with. And Cody Nikorima was, of course, the man that we brought in for Chance Nickel-Klukstar. We needed someone in that fullback role. If I didn't have anybody to sub, that was the thing. I would have liked to have held Chance, but because we're into the last 2 games of the round, I didn't have any reserve options. I'd already looped, so I'd already copped an AE from the loop. I had to, I just had to trade, and we ended up going Nikorima, which isn't bad because, of course, he's got that duel. We mentioned him in our pod buys last week. We can move him into 5/8, which is going to be what we're going to do going forward. And it's good to have a Dolphins player for their great bye round schedule. But that is how the team went overall. Which means, what do we do next? We go into the round recap. No, not the round recap. The Team List Tuesday news, which, of course, I have on this left-hand side here. So don't mind me looking over here. Of course, if I can find... I should have had this prepared. My apologies. So, all right, Team List news. We're going to run through this as quick as we can. For the Eels, Clint Gutherson is back at fullback, which pushes Blaze Talangi to 14. So, jersey 14 on the interchange. Mitchell Moses is back at halfback, which pushes Dill Brown into 5/8. And Dejan Arce out of the side. Will Penasini also returns. Brendan Hands, big news there as well, is now starting hooker with Joey Lussick dropped out of the side completely. There's no real coverage for hooker on the bench as well. So Brendan Hands could be a little sneaky option to pick up at real cheap and see how he goes, but I'm not too trustworthy of what the Eels do there. The rest of the team is pretty stock standard. Joe Alfa Hengawi starting lock with Jaman Hopgood out. And the second rowers are Kelma Tulangi and Bryce Cartwright, with Sean Lane, Makahisi Makatoa, and Wiramu Greg off the bench. Ryan Madison is in the reserves, so that's very interesting. I'm not sure if that's necessarily coming back from injury or if there's something going on there. I am hearing rumours that he might be either forced out of the club or told to leave. So we'll have to see. The Sharkies, for them, not too much. Braden Trindle comes back. He's copped his fine. He's been reinstated by the NRL, and he comes back into the side at halfback, replacing Nico Hines, who was away on Origin duties. The rest of their team is pretty stock standard. Jack Williams plays at lock forward for Cameron McInnes, who was also out with Origin, and Toby Rudolph and Braden Hamlin-Uele joined the bench. Tuka Hautapua also makes way, but not too Supercoach relevant there. The Knights coming off the bye, they're pretty safe here. They do have Christian Mapapalangi into the centres for the injured Bradman Best in a little straight swap there. Beyond that, I think their team is full strength, so they're in a really good spot here, especially coming off that bye. They do take on a Bulldogs side who's pretty strong at the moment as well, coming off some really good performances. Drew Hutchison is back into the side at 5/8 with Matt Burton away on Origin duties. Matt Burton is currently named in the extended squad, so he might come back and play, but I'd assume he will be either brought into the team or as 18th man, which means he will be required as cover for them. So I assume the Bulldogs will be without him this week, but there's a chance he comes back. Viliami Kikau has a broken hand and is out for 4 weeks, I believe, which means Jacob Preston comes into the starting side at second row. Beyond that, Kurt Mann back at lock forward. And their bench is Bailey Hayward, Josh Curran, Curtis Morin, and Pawasa Farmasili. Into the Panthers v. the Dragons. The Panthers, lots of changes here, as we expect. The best team is without a lot of their best players through Origin. Shock horror. So Dane Laurie is the fullback, replacing Dylan Edwards, who is out with Origin. Jesse McLean comes onto the wing for his second NRL game, I want to say, replacing Brian To'o. Jack Cole is still at 5/8, but Brad Schneider comes into the side at halfback for Jerome Luai, also away on Origin. Their front row is the same. Their second row is without Liam Martin, and he's replaced by Liam Henry at second row. Now, this is really interesting. I will speak a little bit on it. I'm not sure. Obviously, he'd need 3 games there to get a duel. Could be a handy duel to have. More importantly, it's a number that you're going to have if you still own Liam Henry. It's a good number to have through this Origin period. And if he's going to be playing decent minutes in that second row role, yeah, you're in luck there. So that's pretty interesting to see. Lindsay Smith is at lock for Isaiah Yeo. Their bench is debutantes of Trent Toilau. I'm probably butchered it. Preston Ricky, Maverick Gaia, and Tyrone Peachy. So 2 debutants there with Talau and Ricky. So that's really cool to see. For the Dragons, lots of changes here as well. Sione Finau comes onto the wing for, I believe it's his second game as well. He replaces Zach Lomax, who was away on Origin duties. Matthew Fianet and Max Fianet, the twins, come in at centre and wing. Matthew replacing Michaela Ravalawa, who has been dropped, and Max Fianet replacing the injured Jack Bird. Jesse Marshke is the halfback in the absence of Ben Hunt. Jack DeBellin moves to front row. Tom Eisenhuth to lock, and Luciano Leilua and Raymond Faitala Mariner are the new second rowers, with Jaden Sewer also away on Origin duty, and Toby and Ryan Couchman come onto the bench, the other 2 twins there. So we've got 2 sets of twins for the Dragons. We'll see if there's any luck involved in that. For the Dolphins and the Raiders, Trey Fuller comes in at fullback for Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow, who is away on Origin duty. Connolly Lemuelu has been named to start at second row this time, despite the fact he's been doing that every game anyway, with Felice Kofusi away on Origin duty. So you would expect Mark Nichols, who keeps getting named to start, but you'd expect him to actually start this time. Anthony Milford is the new man on the bench. For the Raiders, not much going on here. Atamariotta starts in the second row for Hudson Young, who is also away with Origin, and Simi Sasangi gets himself a bench spot. And lastly, for the Roosters and the Cowboys, few changes here. The Roosters are without Joseph Suoli'i, so he's replaced by Junior Ponga in the centres. I would love to pronounce his actual name, Fataliga, but I know I'd butcher it, so I keep saying Junior. If anybody wants to correct me or tell me how to pronounce that, I would appreciate that. One of my favourite players, so I don't want to be paying any disrespects to the pronunciation of his name. But yeah, he is in at centre for Suoli'i. The rest of their back line is the same. Of course, the big news is James Tedesco missed Origin, so he's available for this game. In their front row department, Terrell May, of course, has been named to start at front row with Lindsay Collins out in Origin. The other man out in Origin is Spencer Leniu, so there's not much cover on this bench, which we'll get to. Nat Butcher comes in at second row in a straight swap for Angus Crichton away on Origin. Victor Radley still at second row and Nafahu White still at lock forward. Their bench is Sandon Smith, Siwa Wong, Sitili Tupanua and Michael Jennings. Not a single middle there. I mean, Siwa has been playing a bit of middle in New South Wales Cup, playing a bit of lock forward. I'd expect him to, fit in well there. But I still think it's massive minutes for Terrell May this week, and I'm so keen on owning him. So I'm really happy I've held this long. For the Cowboys, few changes here. Braden Burns comes onto the wing for Murray Talangi, who is away with Origin. Tom Chester returns from injury in time to replace Valentine Holmes, who was out with Origin. Kilukefu Fuiaki comes in at second row for Jeremiah Nanai. At lock forward, Thomas McKaylee comes in for the player, I can't remember his name, Ruben Cotter. And Jake Granville starts at hooker for Reece Robson. So their bench is Sam McIntyre, Harrison Edwards, Jason Tamalolo, and the debutant 18-year-old Jamal Shibasaki. So very exciting to see Shibasaki get a run here. Congratulations on your NRL debut, and congratulations to all the other players debuting this round as well. So let's get straight into our trade talks then, shall we? So as you guys know, last week I tried to get away with making 0. Ended up making that 1, had to be done. This week, I'd like to save at least one trade as well. It's definitely around for the rest of you guys. If you are low on numbers for round 13, if you are low on numbers for round 13, definitely go hard at it. You'd want around 12. I think 11 you can get away with. Anything lower than 11, you're in a tough sort of time. 13, yeah, ideal. Remember, on rounds 13, 16, and 19, the 3 major bye rounds, only the top 13 scores count. So you could have 17 playing players, but only 13 of those scores are going to count towards your team. Now, I'm in luck at the moment. So we did a quick count through the last time, but we'll go through again. I have Jaden Brayley, so 1 with Brayley, 2 with DeBellin, 3 with May, 4 with Curran, 5 with Hughes, 6 with KPP, 7 with Nikora, 8 with Smithies, 9 with Brown, 10 with Young, 11 with Ramian, 12 with Marju, 13 with Ido, 14 with Armstrong, and 15 with Nikorima. So I could get away with no trades and still have 15 players, so 2 players above the limit, essentially. But I'm going to be greedy and I'm going to trade regardless. Mainly because there are some players that I just want to set myself up with for this period regardless. So I could have 15 players and get those 13 scores regardless. But when a lot of them are front rowers and second rowers, and I have a fullback at the moment with Nikorima, I don't have a halfback, etc. I want to maximize my upside. So where I'm going to be looking to trade is Angus Crichton. It's an interesting one, I know, because he's at max price and he's the best second rower at the moment in Supercoach. But I'm looking to maximize on his cash now. He's got a pretty awkward run with this Origin period, this bye period with the Roosters draw. For instance, he's out this week with Origin. Roosters have the bye next week, so he misses that. He'll come back, probably play 80 that week, and I'll cop that. And if he scores 150 and, crucifies me, that's tough. But then he's out with Origin again in 16. He'll probably get reduced or limited minutes in 17, maybe back to full in 18. But I assume they just sort of rest him. And, they've got so many back rowers over this period. Well, they have so many back rowers in the club in general, the Roosters. I think restings are going to happen for their Origin-bound players. I think Crichton is probably the top of that list with how he's been playing. With how they want to keep him, by the sounds of it, they do want to hold on to Angus Crichton. So you're going to want to maximize him for the future, and you want to be like, hey, mate, look, we care about you. This is why you should, re-sign with us. So we're going to rest you and give you limited minutes. So I think he is in for reduced minutes. So I'm looking to sell There's a few options. I really wanted Connolly Lemuelu for essentially the entire buy period. He's at a nice little price of about 570k, but with what else I want to do, it's not going to be done. Let's do my 2 trades at once then. All right, Luke Brooks, he has to make way. He's not doing it for me, which means I'm moving Dylan Brown from 5/8 to halfback to cover him. I'm moving Nicarima down from fullback to 5/8 to cover that. I'll bring in a fullback, and I'm sure you guys can guess. James Tedesco, after missing Origin, is coming into the side. No questions about it whatsoever. And the person I'm going to bring into second row, as I said, I'm a little bit short of what's his face, of Connolly Lemuelu. Let's just see exactly how short. He scored 52, I believe, last week. Yeah, so I'm about 35k short of Lemuelu. The other one I was looking at, and I not filled with the full confidence, but I'm pretty confident in. He scored, I think, 70. There he is, Jacob Preston. Now that he's starting with that injury to Viliami Kickout, he'll be back to 80 minutes. Has really good buy coverage. And again, I don't need him for this week. I don't need him for this week. You're right. So who could I go for next week? Let's have a quick look. The thing is, I only have 541 to play around with. Now, ideally, I want to own, not Angus Crichton. What's his name? The David Fafita for the coming weeks. How do I make that? I could go to I was quite tempted by Nafahu White, who was amazing last week. Gives me 162 in the bank. It gives me another Roosters player. So let's just complete that trade for now. We can always reverse that Nafahu White one. Next week, this is the thing we have to be careful about, and this is why buy planning is really important, and I think I've done a really good job of it. But next week, not a major buy week, which means we get 17 players, but there's still 3 teams on the buy. So you can be left well and truly short. It's quite important to maximize that. The 3 teams on that buy are the Dolphins, the Roosters, and the Raiders. So for instance, let's just set myself for next week saying no injuries occur. We'll have Harry Grant probably back from Origin, but could get rested. That's why it's risky. But let's say he plays. We'll have Harry Grant and Jaden Brayley as options. Terrell May is out, so next week this is. So we'll have to play Curran. Nafahu White, if we do bring him in, will be out. We'll have to play Nikita, which is fine. Hines will probably play. Nicarima won't play. Dominic Young won't play. And James Tedesco won't play. So let's look at reserves. We would probably put one on Ido. Yeah. Probably throw one on Armstrong, like just for the hell of it. Nicarima gets one taken off him. We'll throw one on Dylan Brown, and we can throw one on Jaden Brayley. Oh, and we're still short, are we? No, there we go. Yeah, okay. So we could make do next week, but that is if no injuries occur or no restings occur. If there's a resting to Nico Hines, I then have to find a reserve somewhere, which means I'm limited to Sam Hughes, and that's it. If Nico Hines and Harry Grant are rested, I'm sure a player, and I have to trade next week, which is fine. I don't mind trading next week. It's just, not ideal. So this is the stuff you really have to think about. I'd love to get David Fafita in sooner rather than later. So this is why getting in enough Nafahu White this week would be good. He's expected to make a bit of cash. He's got a 15 break even. You could wait a week. It's definitely interesting to see what the Roosters are going to do with their rotations. But I don't mind bringing him in. Bit of risk to it, but I think for the price, I like it. The other thing, though, is Jacob Preston. Excuse me. Jacob Preston does play next week. So there's another, maybe not gun, but he's a close to a gun player that you're going to have, or I'm going to have if I bring him in. He plays the second bye round as well, so 16. He has a really good schedule. I do like the Bulldogs schedule. I like him playing 80. I like him on their left-hand side, which they favour. But how do I get to Fafita? Let's go to that right now. Where are you, Mr. Preston? So going to Preston leaves me with 6K as opposed to about, what was that, 136? As opposed to 162K. it's just a lot less money to play around with to get to Fafita. The other person I really want is Adam Fanua-Blake. It's really tough. I'm happy to bypass players like Joey Manu and stuff in the centre wing, but I really want Fafita now that he's missed Origin. I think the Titans' bye schedule is pretty darn good, especially next couple weeks. I think they've got Tigers and Rabbitohs in the next couple weeks after round 13, which is insane. If I do go on him and he gets picked for Origin, though, I'm going to be pretty filthy, but I think that's a risk I want to take. Not owning Fafita during this time is terrifying. So the other thing I could just do is, trade Angus Crichton to David Fafita and forget Tedesco. But Tedesco, after missing Origin in this Roosters side, it just seems like a no-brainer to own him, to be honest. I think I need Tedesco more than I need Fafita. So, begs the question, what are we doing with this whole trading Crichton thing? Is it Nafahu White? Can I cover that? Probably. Gives me another duel as well, which I can sort of play around with, maybe a little bit. It's a lot of Roosters players. I'll have James Tedesco, Dominic Young, Nafahu White, Terrell May. 4 of them is... And, eventually I'll have to make plans to get Crichton back into the side. I guess Terrell May will eventually make way. It's just an awkward one. So I'm thinking Jacob Preston. It makes the most sense. It's safer. It gives me another number for this week, which, as we said, I don't need a number. Without him, I still get Nafahu White, which again gives me a number for this week. So are there any options that are cheaper? Do I nuff? No, I don't really want to nuff. Is there a cheaper option who's scoring well and is going to make money? Not particularly. I mean, less than 400k for Nafahu White is really good cash-wise. There's no one else that's really standing out to me. When we're getting down here, you're looking at players that, aren't making money anyway. Justin Matamua's an option, break even of 2. Won't make the most money, but will cover a lot of that buy period if he stays in the side. So there's a few risks. You can go Hylam Lukey. Don't mind that either. Similar price to Nafahu White. Plays next week. Probably has more attacking upside too than White. It's an interesting one, that. I don't know. Definitely one to ponder on. I think I'm going to do Nafahu White now. I came into this going Jacob Preston. I think I've convinced myself out of it. Yeah, I think I've convinced myself out of it. So I think we're going to keep Nafahu White. Every chance I change this along the way, and the reason to follow the Instagram, if one of the many reasons would be this. So if I do change my trade decisions or captaincy decisions, etc., this is why you follow the Instagram. That is at Chip and Chase Podcast, so you guys can keep up with all that. And you can also, contact me directly and ask some questions. You can also drop comments down below on the YouTube, which I will get around to replying to as well. But that is where I think I'm at with my trades. We'll set myself up in the sit v starts for the rest of the team. For now, that'll do for the trades. Let's look at a little something that we've posted over on the Instagram. Another reason to follow. The best buys for the buy period. Here we are. We usually do our pod players this week. I figured this was a much more important time to be looking at, as we said, the best players to own over the buy period. So that's rounds 13 to 20, essentially. The last major buy round is 19, but you want to have a bit of, a few players in for 20 because that's a minor buy round where 3 teams are still on. So we're going to include that in that. So we're going to look at the best fullbacks and the best center wing. We do have all of them. We have every position available on the Chip and Chase Instagram page. So if you guys want to see, 5/8 halfback, front row, second row, and hooker, that's why you have to go to the Instagram page. So we're just going to tease this, give you guys a little preview, look at fullback and center wing. But if you guys want to see anything else, go to the Instagram, give us a follow, give this a like, and show it some love. Another thing that we've worked quite hard on. So the best 3 fullbacks that we have listed in no particular order, keep that in mind, are Latrell Mitchell, Scott Drinkwater, and James Tedesco. This is a position that you do want to maximize during the buy period. Look at the averages. We're looking at 77 plus averages from these players. So lots of upside. These are the players you really need to maximize your score. Now, you don't need all of them. if you are running an Origin player like a Reece Walsh or a Dylan Edwards, it's probably decent to keep them because they're still going to be good, and to have, to play around with this a bit too much. It's using a lot of trades, but to have one player that's not playing Origin that, at least covers most of the major buy rounds, I think is important. And these are the three best fullbacks in my opinion. I haven't gone a deep dive into their stats like I normally do, the graph, etc. I've just laid out their averages, their price, and the teams, their buy coverage, their draw, essentially. So you guys can see what is the best thing to do there. Again, no particular order. I obviously am favouring James Tedesco out of these ones. I could bring in any. Bringing in Drinkwater frees me up an extra 100k. Oh, it is tempting that. I do like that idea, but I'm just more confident in, as I said, the Roosters team in general, and Tedesco having missed out on Origin. I think he's going to be firing up. The same can be said about Latrell Mitchell, to be fair, but I just prefer James Tedesco. So we'll now look at the three best centre wings. Centre wing, another position we want to maximise in. Lots of upside here. Again, the lowest average here between these three players, 74. And there's other players I left out. Dominic Young is someone that you're going to want. Ronaldo Mulitalo, Jesse Ramian, Sione Katoa. Three really, really good options as well. There's a lot to look at in the centre wing. We've just outlined these three players as probably the best ones to target. Joseph Manu would be the best one. It's a bit of a gut wrencher for those who did buy early that he hasn't got that fullback position because Tedesco hasn't made Origin. But even at centre, he's doing some wild things, and I think he's going to be very important to own. If there's a chance that Tedesco, if New South Wales lose game one to a decent extent, Dylan Edwards doesn't really have the impact, then there's every chance Tedesco is brought back in for game two and Joey Manu goes to fullback. I'm running that risk by bringing Tedesco in, but if you were to bring in Manu instead of Tedesco, you don't have that risk, because then if Manu can just go to fullback and it's even better for you guys. So Manu, the best buy out of the three, but Jermaine Asako and Jacob Kiraz, I love as well. All of these three are premium players. As I said, we're not looking at pod this week. We're not looking at, different price ranges, maybe some ones that you can try and afford. These are the players that you want. You want at least one of these essentially from every whatever you call these, position. That'd be the word. We're not going to look any further. As I said, 5/8 halfback, hooker, front row, and second row forward, all up on the Chip and Chase Instagram, at Chip and Chase Podcast. If you're watching the YouTube, you can see it right over here. Go and give us a follow. Go see what you guys think. There's a lot of other options out there. If you want some other options, be sure to message or comment on this one, and I can give you my opinions. But we've just laid out the best ones that we think for the Origin period. These are the most important players that you guys need. Looking at some of the most traded in, people looking to trade in Sam Walker. I do like that. I think a lot of people are trading out Nicho Hynes, as you can see over here. I understand that. Nicho Hynes is at a gigantic price, 190 break even, going to lose money, and he has not the best buy schedule because of Origin. I just think that there's no other good halfbacks. I'm not really ready to risk selling Nicho Hynes for, like, Sam Walker, really good option, but I'd rather trade my second halfback to bring in Sam Walker. And in my case, I can just move Dylan Brown there and he covers that sort of role. So I'm going to keep Hynes, but I can understand selling on that front. I understand people bringing in Walker as well. Jacob Kiraz, the next most brought in, not on my side. This is also not counting the players that I just brought in. So they're probably, like, James Tedesco probably is the most brought in player. Let's have a quick look at that. Refresh the page maybe. You guys can get the absolute best content right now. James Tedesco is the most brought in player this week. Nafahu White's the second most. God damn. Well, there you go. That sort of makes a bit of sense there. Yeah, I think Tedesco is the best player to bring in this week. It just makes the most sense for all the reasons we said before. Now, Fahu White, I really like it for, again, the reasons we stated, the money, etc. Sam Walker, we just talked about. Jacob Kiraz, we sort of just spoke about in the best buys or best players to own over the Origin period. Love him at centre wing. He's at a tough price point, but again, he's going to go up. 24 break even. He's going to keep going up. If you can get your way to him, I like that. Jack Cole, another good one to bring in at 5/8 if you wanted to make some cash. I could do that instead of Nah, I couldn't. There's no way I can do that realistically. But Jack Cole, another good one. Decent buy coverage and good cash making. Most traded out, Hines, we've already spoke on. Reece Walsh, I can get it. This is, over that origin period, who really knows what they're going to do with him. I think because the Broncos haven't gotten as many wins as they would have liked, losing to the Titans last week is a kick in the dick. I think he does back up from origin, which I think is a massive plus. So I'm happy to keep him, as you guys know. Angus Crichton, I like the sell. Luke Brooks in my team, as we know, selling. And Harry Grant, I think the Storm are in a similar boat. They don't really have options to play over Grant. They'll probably play Bronson Garlick next week at hooker. Or they'll just bring Harry Grant back, which I think they'll just bring Grant back from origin and he will back up. So I'm happy to keep Harry Grant. Let's just quickly do those trades again while I'm here. I'm not confident enough Fahu White. I will probably back out, but we'll have to see. I'll probably do a bit of a stats deep dive of my own accord and figure out whether it's actually worth bringing him in. But for now, he is in the side, as is James Tedesco. So that moves us into the Sit V starts for this week. Of course, as we have stated, only your top 13 players matter. So you can put reserves on players that, are playing. So as I said, I probably have, 16 players now? Maybe even 17. No. Oh, I actually might have 17 players, which is just too much. It'll essentially just give me a pick of the bunch. Like, it's good to have these players. It just means it'll filter out those bottom 4 scores of mine. So Brayley starts for me, obviously. DeBellin and Terrell May start. Josh Cohen gets a reserve in the second row. Nafahu White, Kai Pearce-Paul, Britton Nikita. At halfback, Dylan Brown. At 5'8", Cody Nikorima. In the centre wing, Dominic Young. Ruben Garrick is out. So Dominic Young, Greg Mahaju, Kale Ito. And at fullback, James Tedesco, which means our reserves are, oh my God, David Armstrong, Morgan Smithies, Sam Hughes. Okay, so how many is that? Josh Curran, Sam Hughes, Morgan Smithies, David Armstrong. I do have 17 players for this round. Way too much. I cannot stress that enough. You can definitely get away with 12. 13's ideal because that's all that counts anyway. You can get away with 12. You can probably get away with 11. Anything overs, it's not ideal because you're not getting their scores. The case of these guys, your Currans, your Hughes, Smithies, and Armstrong, I suppose, is actually good. This is interesting. Maybe I avoid. I'm going to tinker with some stuff, but I don't have enough time to do it in this podcast. As I said, if I do change the trades, you'll find out on the Instagram. Yep, I already know what I'm talking about. So let's look at captain options, shall we? Starting with the Parramatta Eels and the Sharkies. Not my favourite game to captain. Obviously, no Nicho Hines sort of ruins anything there. Eels, they do get Mitch Moses and Clint Gutherson back, so I think they'll be better. I don't think I'd be looking to captain any of them. You could maybe VC one because of the Thursday game, or even a Dill Brown. Not really for me. The upside's not that great. For the next game, Knights and Bulldogs, not really captain potential here. You can look at Greg Marju. You can look at Jacob Kiraz. Actually, a Jacob Kiraz for the Bulldogs could be a great VC. I really like that. Beyond that, not really much for the Knights, even though it is at McDonald Jones Stadium. Then we have Panthers and Dragons. There's not really any Panthers players that you're going to want to captain anymore. No Cleary, obviously. No Edwards. Not sure who you look at there captain-wise. I think they get a good win there. I don't like the Dragons team with all of their injuries and changes and whatnot. Origin players out. But not many options for the Panthers, Dragons. Dolphins and Raiders. Not many options here either. So it all comes down to this Roosters and Cowboys. Now, there are options here. You've got Scott Drinkwater, you have James Tedesco, you have Dominic Young, Joseph Manu, not Valentine Holmes, who's in Origin, but like lots of players. So I'm going to slap a captain, shockingly, on James Tedesco. I'm going to have to slap a VC early in the round, so maybe Greg Marju. I could go a Dylan Brown, but again, I'm thinking Greg Marju for that Friday game is my best bet. As I said, not too much on here. I will look to, fiddle-faff around with my trades a bit. there's every chance as I said, every chance I swap them out. But for now, this is where I'm going in the captain options. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, or as I said, swing me a DM. But that'll wrap us up, I believe. Captains is the last thing we do, isn't it? It sure is. So thank you guys for tuning into this one. Once again, I'll say it for the 100th time. Follow us on Instagram. Show us some love. We work quite hard on that, and we try and make this content for you guys to interact with. But this will wrap us up. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.